Hello everyone and welcome to the Hangout Formula. I'm Andy Brine from Become Authentic on Video, and I provide video coaching, Google Plus and Hangout training for those of you who want to find your voice online and deliver an effective message to your audience using the power of video. Now, as I said earlier, this is my show, the Hangout Formula, and sadly it's the final episode today. And for those of you who are tuning in for the first time, because we've only had 6 episodes, I want to give you a brief insight as to what it's been all about and how you can get the most from it. So you can always go back and see some of the other shows. So what I wanted to do was bring successful Hangout broadcasters together from around the world to share the story of their show, from where they started, their humble beginnings, to where they are today. And along the way, they'll be sharing tools, tips and strategies of what it takes to create an amazing Hangout show. And with that in mind, I'd like to invite our guest for this evening, Mia Voss from the Mia Connect. Welcome, Mia. Thanks for coming along today.
Hey, Andy. How are you?
I am doing very well today. It's a good day. It's a bit of a sad day that this is the last one because it's been such fun. But I'd like to kick it off by asking a bit more about yourself and your background and really where you got started.
Sure. Well, I have to acknowledge your dulcet tones. That's what I put in my post yesterday. The dulcet tone, Andy Brine. Thanks for having me on, though. I like being the last in a series, although I've watched all your shows in the last couple of weeks just to get an idea, and it's kind of daunting. I'm following Sarah Hill. Hello. She's amazing. For sure.
You've got a great show. Absolutely.
Oh, thank you. Mine's, if you haven't watched my show, I know that you have. We celebrate the hot mess, which is a great way to circumvent any kind of problems that are bound to happen on Google Plus, like somebody's phone ringing, by the way. Rookie move on my part. But, there's always a little something going on with Google Hangouts. So, I just like to celebrate usually on my shows that something's breaking or dropping off. I mean, I dropped off right before we got started, didn't I? I thought you hung up on me. I'm like, he doesn't want to talk to me anymore. So, yeah. I know. I was like, Andy's frozen and he doesn't want to say anything else. So anyway, but again, thank you for having me on, and I just think it's a great idea to get people to come on and talk about the Hangout experience, especially with what your business is about. I mean, this is a perfect medium for it. So I started the Mia Connect Power Chat, the panel portion it'll be almost a year. Actually, I think it's next month in August. I haven't missed a show yet, so knock on wood. My desk is glass. But I started in Google Hangouts in early 2013. I think my first show was in the beginning of March, and it was more of an interview type style like you're doing right now. And then I've really kind of played around with it just to see what works in the last year. So that's the fun thing about Google Hangouts and building a brand, is you can decide what hat you want to put on, almost, just to say this is what showcases my personality the best. So
definitely.
Yeah.
So tell me a bit more about your background, yourself, and your story. In terms of where you got started with all the Hangouts, or even before Hangouts, what was
Sure.
your passion?
Well, some people may know this. I love to say I wear many hats, and with the downturn of the economy, I found here in the States from a couple years ago, a lot of people reinvented. I saw that as a theme throughout watching all the interviews that you did. A lot of people are in a completely different spot than they were a year ago, mainly obviously for this series, for the Hangouts, but I think it's been interesting to see over the years how people have evolved just based on the world changing around them. I know for myself, I've had a building inspection business that I started back in 2001. I call myself an accidental entrepreneur, because things just, I'm like, that sounds cool, let's try that. Something will come up and seems like a good idea, and I have a varied background, but I've been in Colorado, I'm in Denver, I've been here for 20 years, but started with this kind of crazy niche punch inspection business. I had some architects I was working for, and they're like, you're really picky and you type fast. Why don't you come and help us do punch inspections? So I started going with them on these job sites, and It's definitely such a fascinating world for me. I don't know if you're fascinated with design and construction, but I am a big construction nerd. Sort of a little known fact, getting to be more well known as as time goes by. But so I started that business, and they kept bringing me back, and then I was traveling around the country and going to these different resorts and being sometimes a not very well liked person because I was going on construction sites and saying, hey, you need to fix that, and being usually the only woman in sight and then a pushy woman. So I traded, I wear a construction hat when I'm not wearing this. So, that was just a wonderful business. And then in 2009, things dried up for me immediately. And it was because I was working on high-end homes and hotels and things that just stopped getting built at the time. So I had to reinvent, and it was a really, really frightening time. Because I'd put all my eggs in one basket and said, this is what I know how to do. And, but the tough thing I realized that it was that I built a business also that really if something happened to me, then I would not be making any money. Do you know what I mean? Like and I worked in all these ski resorts. I never skied because I was terrified of breaking my leg. And so I wouldn't, I really kind of kept it close to the vest, but I ended up reinventing. I got introduced to a group called Crave. It's a national group out of Seattle, and they wanted to start a branch here in Denver, and Crave is a group for women entrepreneurs. So I went from a mainly male-dominated industry to completely female, and also just, I'd been on job sites for, 10 years at that point, so it was a stretch for me, for sure. But then I started helping it was amazing. What a blessing. I always tell this story that I didn't realize how many cool women were doing cool stuff. I mean, there were race car drivers, politicians, and it wasn't just like this group full of, women who were had hair salons. It was just there was two women that had started a group called Tomboy Tools, and it was tools made specifically for women. Talk about being in a male-dominated niche. So it was pretty neat. I helped publish a book and put the networking group together. And once I published that book, this was about 3 years ago, I was like, you know what? I need something that's unisex. Because I was in this male-dominated world or this female-dominated world, and I was like, community is not one gender or the other. Yeah. And so I came up with the idea of the Mia Connect, and kind of the cool thing is I had my mission statement 3 years ago, and it's connecting you to the people and businesses you need to know in Denver and beyond. But I'm like, all right, that's cool, but how are you going to make money?
Yeah.
Right.
So you would say it's interesting to see you've got such a varied background. Actually, it's amazing, and how you've come to doing this. Before we move on to the Hangout side of things,
yeah,
I'd like to find out a bit more about the purpose behind your show initially, before you even got started.
And that's really funny about that with having that mission statement. I was like, okay, again, how am I going to make money with that? And so for about 2 years, I was struggling with it and saying, okay, I'll do a social media company, or I'll do this, and it was tough because I come from a generation where my parents' generation was, you've got that same job for this many years. My father worked for the water company in our hometown in the Midwest for 40 years. You know what I mean? Like that's how they rolled. So it felt kind of weird, like bumbling around trying to figure it out. But I wasn't alone. I was in good company. A lot of people were reinventing. So I, had this social media company, but I really knew that I loved showcasing people. I get so excited about cool stuff people are doing. Just couldn't figure out how I wanted to do that. So I met this woman at a TEDx talk here in Colorado. Her name is Shauna Coronado, and I just loved her. I just loved what she was doing. She's this really interesting grassroots gardener, but gets people really wound up and does really, really cool things. She's out of the Midwest. And I went to her website, and she had interviewed Chris Brogan. And I didn't know who that was at the time, to be honest with you, but now I'm a big nerd for Chris Brogan. I'll just put myself out there. I'm a weirdo, as the freak show in here at the Earth. And but I saw the format, and it was so cool, Andy, because I was like, wait a second, what is that? It was on YouTube, but it was on guess what? What was it?
It's got to be on a Hangout, isn't it?
Ding, ding, ding.
That's
so
excellent.
Yeah. So I was like, and at that time, honestly, I had actually been on a radio show. Somebody had saw me with the networking group. They're like, hey, how about you do a radio show? But man, that was not half as cool as I thought it was going to be. It was, limited, and I was driving, and I had to say what they wanted me to say, and that just doesn't go over well for me. I'm sure you probably figured that out by now. So, so then I saw the Hangouts. I'm like, that's it, and I quit the radio show and started doing Google Hangouts and doing interviews from my home.
Excellent. Well, I was going to ask you what sparked your interest in Hangouts, but I see it seems like you've answered that one absolutely perfectly. But I will ask you, what was it that really did light you up when you saw Hangouts for the first time?
The ease of it, the control of it. At that time, after being in radio and seeing how complicated it was and how you had to sort of kowtow to all these different, FCC things and, just all these constrictions, it just seemed so natural to use the Hangouts as that to make your, how did Sarah put it? She put it so well, but hey, you've got your own broadcast tower in your home.
Definitely.
How cool is that, right?
I absolutely love it, actually. It's fantastic. I just want to give a shout out to some of the guests because there's quite a few people in here already watching, and thank you all for tuning in so far. We've got Crystal Cassane.
Hi, girlfriend. I love her. And Artemis. Hi, Artemis.
I can't pronounce all the other names. I really do apologize. But
let me go to the event and I'll see if I can pick some out too.
Adele Hyde.
Oh, yes.
But it's a pleasure to have you all here. So.
You want me to? Oh, look, hi, Leela.
And Vivek as well, actually.
What'd you say?
Yeah, pleasure to have you all. Moving on to the next question, though. I know you like to wear a tiara on your shows. What inspired the tiara back then?
You know what? It's accidental too. I mean, anything that happens, I just love to. Makes me stutter. I like it so much. It cracks me up. I just accidentally put it on one day, and I went back and looked at my shows too to see when I started. I actually started off with the Gold King one that you've seen. You should put that on, by the way. That would really make me happy if you did.
Let me find it while you're doing that.
Okay, I'm just gonna sit here and stare at you until you put it on. There's a couple others, and we may goof around for the audience out there, and I'll show you some of my other favorites. But it just cracked me up. I just thought it was so fun, and a couple other things too. I went back and looked when I did a show for my birthday this year, and I went back and looked at a lot of my photos from my birthdays in the last couple years, and somehow I was always wearing a tiara. Like I'd go to Walgreens and buy these, which is our local drugstore here, and buy these little kids tiaras and wear it, for the birthday party. So I think it's always been naturally ingrained, but just Google Hangouts brought it out. And show everybody what you've got.
So I thought I'd join you now with a nice crown. So
do you know what that gets, by the way? I'm going to do this because you know it's coming. The sound effects really cracked me up too. Just a little bit of historical pinpoint or point is that they used to have these great sound effects on Google, and that not these effects, but there were other ones, and they had like a Star Trek sound and all kinds of fun things. So I kind of miss it. Andy, can you guys hold on one second, because boyfriend came home and now has the TV cranked up and doesn't realize that mom is on air. So hang on one second.
No problem. So while she's doing that, I'm going to bring up a few comments. Thanks all for tuning in so far. It's great to have you all here. Jessica Maynard, we've got Karen Font Garcia, Zara Altair.
Hi, Zara.
And everyone here, thank you for being here. Thanks for liking the crown, Sarah.
Yay! Thank you. And you know what I need is one of those big on-air things like they do on radio. I think I need one of those lit lights right outside of my office. So
that would be very cool. So your shows, you say your show's been going for just over a year now, and you run it, say, once a week.
Yes.
Can I ask you, how would you say your show's evolved over the past past year from starting out to where it is today? You made any changes and adapted it over the time?
I have, and it was a little scary to do so. Like I mentioned before, I started off as an interview show, and that was really fun. It's been fun to evolve for sure. Of deciding like what's gonna make me happy, and if I'm happy, then it's gonna come out with the format. So, in the beginning, I was doing shows. Like I said, the individual interviews, and it was fun. I got to interview the mayor of my hometown. We went to grade school and junior high and high school together, and so that was kind of fun. One, to show how friggin' old I am, and two, talk to a friend of mine about cool stuff he was doing. I had another guy that I went to high school with who also was the dean of a junior college on the East Coast, and he had went to Harvard and was just very well educated and chose to go to a smaller school that was with at-risk youth and really make a difference. I mean, just talking to people doing that kind of thing is so exciting. I interviewed a local photographer here whom I adored. He was very unusual, and during the show he started telling me about his autistic son, who's a photographer, and the next week I ended up bringing his son on, and it was very cool to get to showcase him as well and show people this is the face of autism or Asperger's and showcase his work. He's an amazing photographer. So I mean, that's what it was originally inspired by, was just talking about stuff I love, but I usually don't say stuff, just so you know. I'm cleaning it up for you.
That's fine. So, did you actually have him on the camera at the same time? Did you like? I've got a cousin who's autistic, and it's hard sometimes for him to communicate. So I know how difficult that can be. Did you actually have him on the camera at the same time? Or? I
did, and he did really well. His name is Louis Moschel, and if you all go to my YouTube channel and check out the Mia Connect interviews, I believe it's called. He did really well. We spoke afterwards, and he was uncomfortable with it, but I just said, honey, you need to show people that this is, because he felt like he didn't come across well. I'm like, but this is how you come across. So there's no coming across well. This is it. This is the face of it. And it was really eye-opening too, because he had not only just the social issues, but he has an aversion with touch on certain things. He can't stand paper. That's why he can't stand the feel of paper. That's why he became a photographer. So he learned to modify what didn't work for him and turn it into something else, which I just could not get over how cool I thought that was.
Definitely.
Yeah, really neat. So he did do pretty well on that too. So, but I sort of had to evolve with the control of it, because honestly, I was so I don't want to say insecure, because I didn't feel that way, but I really was feeling like, oh my gosh, I am alone in a crowd here, because honestly, I didn't see that many women doing hangout shows.
Yeah.
Kind of at all. Ifat Cohen was doing some, and of course Sarah was doing some, and I'm sure I don't know, Daria Musk was at the time, but the crowd that I was running in, because I was in the social media world and thought that needed to be my field of expertise, was pretty very straightforward, dry shows, and that's cool too. That's where you get your learn on. But and I was trying to do shows like that, and then I'm like, oh man, this isn't going to work. This isn't going to last long. So I switched up. But what was interesting, though, in the beginning, I did not set a time for my show, and I was at the mercy of people. But I also was at that point just thought I felt kind of like they were doing me a favor anytime they came on, and there really was nobody watching my shows. In fact, I didn't start them out as. Did I start them out as events? I don't think I did. This was back in March of last year. I think I just did them as. Just like start my HOA, and it just went right to YouTube, but there was no audience interaction.
Okay.
I was too afraid to. I was too embarrassed.
Really?
I was like, this is gonna go over like a lead balloon, and I would just do my show, and then I would hit the broadcast button, and then maybe make it public, and just like making this face the whole time, like, whoa, you're making a fool out of yourself.
I was going to ask you that question as well, if you had any fear before you did any shows or before you get in front of camera, because I thought and it's, you know, it's so easy to make those small judgments when you think, oh, Mia wouldn't have been had a fear at all. I just thought that earlier for some reason.
Uh,
But it's interesting that we have this fear of being on camera and getting ourselves out there, even
mm-hmm.
those small things. So what did you do to overcome it?
What'd you say?
What did you do to overcome that? So,
Well, there's a couple different things, and there's something I don't say too often, but people do know it. I've been on several shows, but I've suffered from generalized anxiety disorder. I was diagnosed at 22, 22 or 23. I was 22. I was living in Illinois still. And had a horrible panic attack out of nowhere. I was, just this young, vibrant woman. I didn't go to college. I was an insurance agent at the time. I became an insurance agent at 18 because I didn't know what I wanted to do. So I was like, I didn't want to go to school yet. So, but it was debilitating. I suffered from it pretty badly. I moved to New York City when I was 23. I was still in the insurance industry, but did go to college. I started college at NYU when I was 25, but I had to quit because my anxiety was so bad. I couldn't speak up in class, and it was a very alienating disorder to suffer from. So, and I had it until, I still have it actually. It's certain things. I do take what's called a beta blocker if I'm going to speak in front of a very large audience, but I feel okay on Hangouts. Hangouts was just a really good medium for me, so I really encourage people out there to just take it, grab it by the balls, and you gotta do what you gotta do. Sorry about that. I'm sure that probably alienated some people, but it's everybody's got something that kind of throws them for a loop. But just you gotta keep going at it. I literally had decided about 8 years ago. I was what do you call it? I was on the Parks and Rec board. I decided to get into local government because that sounds interesting. So I was on the Parks and Rec board for my local town, and they wanted me to speak at something for the mayor, and I finally was like, screw this, I got to figure this out. And that's when I went and spoke to my doctor and got some medication that helps me manage it so I don't feel like my head's going to blow off my shoulders if I have a panic attack.
That's a fascinating story. It's good to see that you're stepping out and you're doing it in spite of some of the anxieties you've gone through, any of the fears you've gone through. And one of the things I love is just how friendly Hangouts can be.
I know, right?
It's strange. It's as if you're visiting me at my house. We're having a conversation through the internet. It's very strange, and we have people commenting within the comment stream and interacting at the same time. But it's
well, that's what I thought was so magical for me with Hangouts when I finally started kind of coming into my own and saying, I'm going to make this an event, I'm going to own up to it. When I started to see how fun that double tracking of action was. So I'm interacting with you, my guest, I'm your guest or my panel, and then we're interacting with the audience, and then the audience is interacting with one another. That's so cool.
Definitely.
I love. I remember the first Hangout you and I were on. You were you were standing in your yard. Remember, you were going on a bike ride.
Yeah, I was on my mobile, which again is absolutely fantastic. Just pick up your mobile. You can have a Hangout call wherever you are. So it doesn't need to be live all the time. It can be off air from your mobile phone. It's brilliant.
Yes.
I was going to move on to. I know you have a large panel now. And a large panel can often be hard to manage. I mean, you get the different personalities on the show.
Do you see my face, by the way?
But it's interesting when we get the strong personalities, the extroverts, people that love to speak, and then you have the introverted people. Like myself, I'm very much an introvert, but I love being on camera and doing Hangouts. It's strange. But how would you go about managing that audience, and have you any tips for anybody that's tuning in to watch?
Sure. Well, I think the first thing to realize is that we all are, I think there's a lot of assumptions. I'm actually an ambivert, and I have to thank Mike Alton for that. I went on Denise Wakeman's show, whom I adore, And she said, okay, question, introvert or extrovert? And I said, I'm an outgoing introvert, and which I truly am. I just used to think I was a crappy extrovert because I was so exhausted, but I loved kind of being out. And it's just, an ambivert is someone has introvert tendencies, but a little bit of tendencies of both. So it's always interesting to see. There's definitely a phenomenon that happens with Hangouts that, like you said, like you're an introvert, but this is this wonderful medium for you, right? Like who'd have thunk it? So there are some people that seem very introverted, but then they get on Hangouts and they just light up like 4th of July, which happy almost 4th of July, everybody. But so sometimes you can't really tell until the show gets started. I come from a family of intuitives, so I can usually kind of figure it out beforehand who might be a problem child. You just, it really is a lot. I suggest for Hangout hosts, or even if you're going on a show as a guest, to go and check out the style of the other people you're going to be on a show with, and see how they do, and then you can kind of just feel your way through it and know when to take a break or know when there might be an opportunity to speak. But it really is the job of the Hangout host to manage that, and I do pretty good. I've had a couple where it got a little out of control, and I've had to just break in. I've been really fortunate though. I've never had anyone come to I don't want to say come to blows like a Jerry Springer, but anybody really kind of come to a head with each other. It's usually they just get so excited. So it's never that somebody is per se just doing it to be rude. They're so emphatic, and I try and encourage that in people too. So it's just really more paying attention. But it's a lot of work if you want to manage your hosts or your guests as well as your comment tracker. So I just try and keep people really focused. I've had guests that want to do comments and comment tracker, and I'm like, nope, you got to stay with me. I also, a little tip, by the way, I also tell people to open the chat box here in the Hangouts. It's this blue box at the upper left-hand side. I'm being like Ronnie Benser. You know how he always says this?
Yeah.
and that way they can chat with their guests in between, and not my other funny phrase I use is dog shaming, and not dog shame their guests and make them feel uncomfortable. But like if, let's say, the sound is bad or there's something hanging out of their nose. I've never had that one, but that would be funny. You can just quietly, you can mute mute yourself, and then quietly let them know, like, hey, we're coming to a close. I had to tell Ryan Hanley I was going to give him a spanking on one of my shows 2 weeks ago because he got so excited. I love that kid. He gets so enthusiastic, but I was like, I'm going to spank you if you don't let the next guest talk. So it was funny.
Yeah. So that's excellent. So that's a good way to manage. Actually, it's good to be in the comments as well, like within the Hangout itself, because I find it's so easy to interact with the other guests and get them involved, and it's a great way to manage it at the same time.
Definitely. Can I shout somebody out real quick? Brian Shea, bless your heart. I always say bless your heart. Poor Brian. He'll make comments, and I'm like, what the hell does that mean? So he's used to it. But I wanted to give him a shout out because he does have a seriously quirky humor. He's a cool guy though, and he's got an amazing cat menagerie that's complimentary to Bob Voss. And if you don't know who Bob Voss is, he's my three-legged tripod cat.
Cool. Talking about energy and Ryan Hanley having a lot of energy on your shows.
Love that kid.
Is there anything that you do to get your energy up before a show so that you're prepared, you're energized, and in a way you're ready to go?
A lot of amphetamines. I'm kidding. It's so funny. I think, but I do love coffee. I've had people say that about my energy level, and but what's funny is I've learned a couple other things. I've learned not to make plans on the days of my show, because being the ambivert, that all that energy, like it's literally like you're channeling. When you see people channel spirit or something like that, I get so excited, but then it's like somebody dropped my puppet strings, and Greg will come home, is like like I'm just staring. I've learned to not plan on going to like a networking event or anything where I need to chat after that, because it ain't gonna happen. So
Yeah.
but that's what has been great for me, is to realize that's what energizes me. That's what gets me so excited, is being on these shows and talking with people and getting plugged into their energy, and so making it my brand. Because before I was, I had it as a business and I had services, and now I really have focused on the show as the brand. I do have, we just did a webinar with Denise Wakeman on how to, host a hangout. We did that last week. So there is some products. There's things that are based on that, but there's not a client base anymore, because now I'm my own client. Client Mia. My client's a pain in the ass too.
I know what you mean. Excellent. So yeah, a lot of great advice you're sharing today. So I do really appreciate it.
Thank you.
So if I was to ask you, we look 6 months into the future, into your show. How would you see it evolving into the future, maybe 6 months down the line?
Well, my crystal ball has not come by FedEx yet, so. But I do have a magic 8-ball. I see it. I see it continuing to grow. I'd love to. Also, I'm going to be branching out and doing individual interviews as well as they come along. I really like to be interviewing probably more celebrities. I'd like to see in the next 6 months also doing maybe some shows where it is based on what my football season, which is also known as the award season. For most people, football season, it's like from September. Mine starts at the Emmys in September and culminates with the Oscars in February. That is my season.
Excellent.
So I'd love to be able to do more interviews, just because I think it's very fun to get into pop culture and speak with actors and directors and things like that. So that would be a wish list item, let's put it that way. But I love doing the Power Chat. I really do. And what the change that I made to talk to you a little bit more about how some of it changed. So I had the social media Power Chat. That's how I started. Mm-hmm. And that idea was also accidental too. I was on a hangout with a couple of my community manager social media friends, and we were just snarking about just dumb stuff that people have done on social media, because it's funny to do. And I said, let's do a show, like Famous Last Words. Poor Greg. And I was like, ooh, I have this great idea. And he's like, oh boy, here she goes again. But I said, let's do a show where we're all just dishing on social media, like this kind of open, free form thing. And that's how it started off, and it was great. But then by about November, and the more people that I brought in, I realized it was a super saturated industry. There are so many other people that had it down much, much better than I did, and I knew it could probably fizzle out just staying with like the social media thing. So I changed it to the Mia Connect Power Chat in January and just opened it up more to just general topics. So now I get to do things like health and fitness. I do one every quarter, or I want to do one on teachers, design. I've done one about working moms and sanctuaries. And Leela was on my show before. But anyway, so yeah, it's just fun. It was fun to change it up. It was a little scary though when I changed it.
So another question would probably be, how do you go about finding your guests? I mean, you have a large panel, say sometimes you even fill it, like you've got 10 people on the panel, well, 9 people on the panel. Mm-hmm. How do you go about finding your guests and getting them prepared for the show, and even having them feel comfortable on the show, or maybe they've done some type of public speaking before, or even been on Hangouts before?
Can I just tell you real quick, just looking at the comments, ambivert is really resonating with a lot of people. It was like a light bulb in my head when Mike, again, my brother Mike Alton, who's writing a blog as we speak, I'm sure he loves it when I say that. But it resonates with a lot of people. The show process is pretty intricate when you start getting into panels, and a lot of it is happening at the same time. So I'm doing the promotion and the setup of the show at the same time that I'm getting the guests prepared, in addition to finding guests for the next couple weeks. So sometimes I'm a couple weeks out. Other times I'm like the car one, the Tesla one. I don't know if you saw that one. That was a hoot.
I've not seen it yet. I saw you in the Tesla on one of your pictures, and
Man, that was cool. Like, the show was a mess because I was going faster than the internet. But have you ever been in a Tesla?
I've not yet. I need to have a test run.
You got to do it because it's like butter. I mean, it is. I did not realize how car cray cray I was until I got into one of those. It is definitely smooth, but you know, that one was just kind of off the cuff. Then I just knew. I was like, well, I kind of want to change it up, but I also wanted to add in women. So a lot of it just happens by accident. I'm going to be honest. I wish I could give you more of a formula for it, but I think it's just that you're constantly meeting people, seeing people. And then either I've got a theme that goes with the show, or I base the show on the person, and then everybody else kind of comes around it too. So it depends on the week, but I'm pretty specific about my process of like, okay, I'm going to set up the event. I'll set up a separate event for my guests so that they're always aware, because what if it's a couple weeks out, but I haven't done the event yet. Yeah, there's a lot to it, but the most important thing is making sure my guests are always feeling really comfortable, but I don't over prep them too much, if that makes sense, because then I think they lose their magic.
That's one thing that people have asked me when I started this show. Have you got a set of questions? And I did send you a few questions earlier, Mia, didn't I? But
yeah.
I don't usually like sending questions as well, because I think it's, you know, it's all about being natural, being yourself, and inspiration comes when you're in conversation anyway, and it just pops out, and you can share so much value. So I'm not a big fan of questions, as long as you know where to lead the conversation, so that you've got an end objective in mind. That's obviously the key, I say.
Well, in mine, that's why it works for me on some, because it really is about showcasing the person. But what's great, because I'm not going to do it just on a business subject, because I always want to make sure we're talking about what they're doing, but kind of who they are as well, this full body thing, so you get to know who the guest is. Because if you get to know who the guest is, then you're going to understand why they do what they do. I hope that makes sense. But I know, for instance, my brother Jason Weiser, now he's very specific about, I mean, he's uber prepared. His shows, why did I just forget what his show is? You know what I'm talking about, Jason Weiser's On Track Tips. Yeah. But when he does his show, he runs a tight ship, and he's very much on time, and he does it 30 minutes, and that's what works for him. But that's what's cool, is that he's found the formula that works exactly with his personality and how it brings out the best in him. So I think that's one of the biggest things, is that you got to figure out what's going to light you up as a show host, and then the rest of it works pretty well.
Definitely. And I'd be interested to find out how you go about promoting your shows. I mean, in the early days when not so many people knew about yourself and the Mia Connect and what you were doing, how did you first of all get your message out there and promote it all over social media, whether it be Google+, Twitter, Facebook, or other social networks?
That's kind of ebbed and flowed in the beginning. I was really, I don't even know if I can pinpoint how that worked, but I think once I figured out that that the audience was just as much as part of the show as the guests, that was kind of a magic secret sauce for me moment, because then it's sort of exponential. So then I kept shouting people out. It was I will say it was a slow growth. Just everything for me was pretty organic. I didn't do circles too much, so I really tried to grow things organically and just kind of make it about the programming, re-inviting people back the next show. The new Circloscope, by the way, love it, because I'm able to pinpoint the more interested folks. But it was definitely slow in the beginning. If I had 2 people comment, it was cool, which is awesome. It still will be cool. I love it. But what was fun about staying organic about the process and growing the show was that I really did get to know the people that were commenting, and it's kind of the same thing. I may not have hangouts with these folks, but I feel like I kind of know them because I see them each week. But as far as promotion, I do have a set schedule. The thing that I started doing that I think that works really well is doing those trailer videos, which kind of sucks because then I have to put makeup on that day and do my little thing. And then sometimes the boyfriend will be like, I've heard you say that same thing 25 times now that you're trying to do your trailer video. And I always hit it on the first take, just so you know. But that's helped me out a lot. And then again, I'm going to nerd out and go back to this process map thing. I've got this thing that says, okay, on Monday you do this, and on Tuesday you do this, and then you do a Canva photo. I don't always do the same thing. I may not always post, so I'm not exactly by the book, but I've got reminders that tell me, now you do this, now you do this, because it's a lot. Andy, it's a lot to make these shows run.
Definitely.
It's a lot to make yourself look like these shows are easy to run. How's that?
Yeah, I'd completely agree with that. It's something to get. It's definitely something to get used to be completely on top of things, and in some respects you're never completely on top of things. There's always some things that you might be a little bit behind on. For example, comment tracker here. I'm going to catch up on the comment tracker soon, but in regards to promoting, there's so much involved, but even running the Hangout, I actually manage these Hangouts myself. I don't have anybody else in the room, but that's just myself. I feel comfortable doing that. Do you have anybody helping you manage your Hangouts yourself?
Right now I don't. When I have a big show, I do. Debbie Davis comes in and helps me out. I've had people in the past, and then and she just pinged me. She's so cute. Sorry, Deb just popped into my chat. So she's great for that too. For instance, when I had the Guy Kawasaki show, which I got to tell you, that one threw me for a loop. I said to Greg, I was like, dude, I'm in over my head. And he's like, what? I'm like, I'm in over my head. Like, Guy and Peg had been on all these interviews, and I was like, oh, no. Like, I saw how everybody's style was, and I kind of lost it. I prepared too much, Andy, I'll be honest with you, because I started to lose my sense of identity, not to sound like a drama queen, but I really did, and I got the coach talk from Greg. He's like, you got this. He's like, this is why you do it. He's like, don't change your style for this. And we had a blast. It was great to be so prepared, but I literally ended up throwing my notes out, 20 minutes into it and just letting them be who they were, which was super fun. So I don't know what track we were on, but I got off on a tangent. But that was one of my more fun shows was talking with Guy Kawasaki.
Excellent. Yeah, I saw his show on Canva, and it was fantastic. First look at Canva, and I was blown away, and it was just amazing to have a look at.
Oh, Canva's fun. Yeah, we've got some good stuff out there that makes our jobs easier. So, and you were asking me if I have people help. So, like for instance, on that show, Debbie Davis came in and was tweeting for me the whole time. I really would like to incorporate that more. I'm planning on bringing in more of a team to do the different things, because really, and again with this goofy Excel process map, what I've done is I've done all the things in a color code that I do now, and then my wish list of okay, right now everything's green, but I really want to only be in this box and this box, and when I hire the full team, I will be in 2 boxes, and that one is showing up, and then 2 is getting the guest prep. And other than that, that's the highest and best use of my time. But for right now, I do love running everything, because then when I do hand it off, I know exactly how it works.
Excellent. That's fantastic, and it seems very similar to what Jason was talking about a couple of weeks back. How he has a set process that he goes through each time. I go through a set process all the time. Should probably write it down.
Yep.
But, I know exactly what I'm doing, and I've got a list of things that I roll through, and I do each and every time, whether it's promoting, setting up the room, everything that I go through. So that's interesting.
Well, and I'll tell you, just as a promo moment, that's why I did that webinar thing with Denise Wakeman, because I love what she does. I've never seen anyone so incredibly thorough. I felt like a rock star when I went on her show, because she did these images of me. She did these pre-thing. I mean, if you've ever been on her Adventures in Visibility show, you do. Now you know how people feel when they get checked into the hotel and you get whisked off. Because I mean, I felt fancy.
It's nice to feel like that sometimes, isn't it?
All the time. I want to feel fancy all the time, to be honest. So.
Well,
And
we've
you should,
both got our crown on today and your tiara. So.
yes. And I took a picture.
I was going to quickly pop into the comments and just pick up a few questions because Crystal was asked a question. Crystal was saying, I'll bring that up. How do you organise your stuff with all those guests? I think you might have covered that in some respects. Is there anything you wanted to add?
I do, you know, it was some people that I know really well that are coming on my show. I just go and I just tell them the date. One thing that I do that really works for me again is I do a separate event, not a Google Hangout, but a separate event for the guest that sits as a placeholder for them. And then that's only for the people that are going to be in the show. And then that's where I converse with them. Hey guys, the show's coming up this Friday. Don't forget. And then I also don't put out my event invite until the week of because I don't want it to be confusing. So then that's when I just pop that over to them and say, hey, please invite your circles, share it with your circles, and invite your circles is also a big one. I don't expect everyone to do that because there are a lot of people who go on a ton of shows, and they just can't share it with everyone. I know I can't. Like I've shared, but I'll share them, but I don't always, I can't expect everyone to invite them, but it's a good reminder. And then the cool thing I like about that is that my guests start having an interaction with each other before the show, but privately. So a lot of them are like, I've never met you, and so then there's their comfort level already that they've kind of met each other in that private event.
Definitely, no, that's absolutely fantastic.
So I know I just made that one up out of nowhere, just so you know.
But no, it does make a difference, though, doesn't it? Having them be able to interact with each other before the show, it's obviously going to make a difference to the level of rapport they have with each other when they actually are on the show itself. So.
I see the Twitter comment from Crystal as well. I love, and I'll tell you, Debbie did help me with that. What she did was, what you use your hashtag. You can pull your hashtag into your Hangout as well. Now, I stopped doing that because Batcrap Crazy is not unique to me, but I'm not giving it up. I had somebody say that, or like, think up a new one. I'm like, no, I'm stubborn because I love that idea of Batcrap Crazy. And can I talk about that for a second, just backtrack on that,
go for it.
Because there's a couple the couple things that I embrace that I know seemed weird. One is this Batcrap Crazy idea, and I came up with that. I can't remember the exact. Do I know the exact moment? I was on one of my original interviews, and the idea that I loved, the original format for my interviews was a 15-minute show that showcased the person. We got to talk about them. I would ask them how they use social media to build their business, and then I would flip the script and say, now what do you like? And so I loved the idea, that recipe of flipping it so that guest got the opportunity to get excited and share their thing. And again, I always tell people, and I don't know why I thought Batcrap Crazy was funny, but I did. So I started saying it that. And I've had everything from Game of Thrones, obviously. I've had, people talk about their dog, their wife. I had my friend who was so unlikely say vampire porn. It was hilarious. And I lost a subscriber on that one. She was offended by that. I said, then don't watch my show because you don't like that. But I loved that idea of the ability to get somebody else being able to say, I'm crazy about my local animal shelter. I'm crazy about, this or that. So it's pretty cool. It's light a candle.
So it's just about sharing, getting everybody to share their passion. What are they crazy about? What they actually love.
Yeah, and it could be that week. And so, but that's where the Batcrap Crazy came from. So I also have Get Your Learn On. So that one's good too. So I get people to share that. And then what we've done during the show as well is like, the comments will be made, so-and-so said this and this at minute something, and then sharing the event as well, and that kind of keeps it going as well. I'm not as much of a Twitter person, but I certainly see the value in it. I will say there is some there's definitely still a difficulty in marrying these worlds together of Google Hangouts. So I've really got a bit of a chasm between my Facebook folks and my Google Hangouts, and I just try and be consistent in sharing it, but I try not to sweat it too much. If I share it and people are like, I wish we had the crickets chirping. Do we have crickets? Oh, we do. Hold on. Right?
That sounds great.
So, but I have 22 social tab over on Facebook so that people can watch it over there. And once in a while, I get my local people. They're like, "You do a show, don't you? You have a radio show, don't you?" And I go, "Yeah, got a radio show." Or they're like, "I don't know how to get to." I'm like, "Well, it's clicking a button, babe, but it's cool."
Yeah. Well, it's been a pleasure for you to share so much today, and I know you said that you might not be able to stay because you had an appointment that you needed to get to. So I did want to ask you.
Get my back cracked, everybody.
But yeah, I wanted to ask you what you've got coming up that you wanted to share, maybe within the next few weeks or even months.
Well, I have, let's see, I have a show on Saturday. Oh my gosh, this is big. And I don't have any guests. My guests are going to be the audience. I just thought it would be really fun to have a week. I do the show once a month on the weekends, and I initially started that actually for Dustin Stout because he couldn't do weekday shows. But now this week I wanted to just bring people on to the show. So for those of you that are out there, I'm going to post the link to my show on Saturday, if that's okay with you, Andy. I want to make sure you're cool with that. And then if you want to come on the show, we'll just kind of be pulling people up onto the stage, just like Courtney Cox in the Bruce Springsteen video from about 30 years ago, because I'm that old. So for you U.S. people, you'll know what I'm talking about. Dancing in the dark. But I kind of do. I want to pull people up on the staging and get them to talk about kind of either how their summer's going or what they're bat crap crazy about. So we're going to sort of cycle people through on Saturday.
Excellent.
Yes, and then I just want to let you know you are one of my last few guest appearances that I'm going to make for July, because I need to go away so you can miss me. I've been on a lot of Hangouts lately.
Well, I feel privileged already, and it's only the 3rd of July. So.
Yeah, exactly. I said, oh, I'm not going to do any in July. I'm like, oh, crap, I got Andy. But I like Andy, and I'm going on Andy's because I want to. But after that, I'm just going to take a little bit of a break. But I am going to keep doing my shows. I have Food and Booze with the Food and Booze show with Chef Dennis. That was a fun one to come up with. That one is just my heart song as well. It's so incredibly fun. It is so win-win for us because we get food and booze. Hey. And we get to go talk to these people that get so excited about their restaurant and share it with the community. Win. Triple win. I'm trying to think what else I have. And then we have our webinar. I might post that link too. If you guys are really, really interested in learning about HOAs, I actually have a ton of the process maps and everything that's in that. We spent a couple weeks sort of downloading that because we get asked so much. So cool. There's that too. How about you? What do you have coming up? Let's talk about you.
Well,
now that you're finishing the series.
Well, before I was going to finish, I was just going to share a few things at the end. Okay. So I will just say thank you very much for joining me on the show again today. It's been a real privilege. Again, you shared so much value, and those people in the comment stream seem to have enjoyed it. So thank you all for those of you all commenting as well. So.
And go subscribe at themiaconnect.com, because then I'll send you all kinds of fun stuff. I'm going to start doing blooper reels, which would be pretty content rich, don't you think?
Definitely.
Thank you for having me on the show. I so appreciate it.
No problem. As I said, it's been a pleasure. And with that in mind, I just created a quick image. And I apologize, my internet connection is not fantastic at the moment. But I just wanted to say thank you all for everybody that's tuning. All the guests that have been on the show since the start of the show. We've had some amazing guests. You can see them all there. Not very good quality, yes, but you can see them all there.
Fantastic. Yeah.
So, just want to say thanks for everybody. Thanks to our show sponsor, plus my reach has been fantastic. They've allowed us to use their name and help us out. And thank you everybody for tuning in the audience, because you guys have obviously made it happen and made it a lot of fun. And I just also wanted to say I'm not from the States, but I've got so many friends in the States now that I wanted to wish you all a happy 4th of July, an awesome holiday.
Thank
So
you.
make sure you have an awesome holiday in a couple of days. I'm sure you will, and I might have a drink on you with you guys as well. So.
Please do. Oh, nice. I love that little graphic. You are so sweet.
And here's what I've got coming up, actually. I was inspired by Wayne Meadle's A World for Change movement, and I helped him out on some of his shows. And he's just recently finished his Sustainable Change series in June. And now Lainey Sullivan is doing a show all about sustainable change in the month of July. And so coming up to the month of August, I wanted to talk about sustainable change in the modern day world. And so I'm going to put on a series of 4 shows all about sustainable change in the modern day world and how it can apply to us. I'm going to cover numerous different areas. There's going to be many different guests on the show. And I'm also going to be hosting it with Tracy Baker. So stay tuned for that. I will be sharing it on Google Plus, so you will see it around. And yeah, if you have any questions, I'd like to find out more about it, just feel free to ping me, and I'll send you all the information. But it will be coming up. First show starts 7th of August. So. And I will say again, thank you very much, and I will see you all very soon. I'm going to say bye for now.